Welcome once again, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Johnny Torch Live. This week we're doing a all this week in comic book TV episode. Not really enough news, I don't think, for a Torch News roundup. Hopefully we'll get to one next week. I feel a little under the weather today. That's another reason why I'm doing the show so early live. Usually I'm doing it much later in the day. I don't know. It feels like a little bit of the sniffles. Maybe it's going to affect my voice. I don't know if you can tell. But so we're just going to carry on with This Week in Comic Book Television. Of course, as we like to start the show most of the time, we are going to start it with a little something that I like to call, let's see. Oh boy, I hope the sound quality is much better this time than it's been. I have a feeling these images, the sound quality, because I don't think I got enough, I don't know, memory or something, but we'll see. But we start the show as we usually do with a little segment I like to call Johnny's NFL Football Picks of the Week. And taking a look briefly at last week, for Halloween week, I had a pretty good week. I had a record of 11-2. 11-2. Well, let's see. What did I lose with? I don't even know. Oh, the Dolphins and the Raiders are the only ones that gave me trouble. Bills are surprisingly strong this year. Okay, so let's take a look at my picks for this week. I took the Bills over the Jets for Thursday, which, of course, the Jets really did a number on them and beat them soundly. For Sunday's games, I'm going with the Panthers over the Falcons. I'm going with the Texans over the Colts. I'm going with the Jaguars over the Bengals. That's kind of surprising. The Jaguars have been able to beat, lower tier teams this season. I'm going with the Saints over the Buccaneers. I'm going with the Rams over the Giants. Not too many surprises this week. I'm going with the Eagles over the Broncos. I don't know. The Broncos haven't been that great, and the Eagles are surprisingly good. They're the best team in the league right now. I'm going with the Ravens over the Titans, taking the Cardinals over the 49ers, which, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo, New England's own Jimmy Garoppolo, has been traded to the 49ers. So I didn't see, because I've been busy all this week, if he's going to start. But, I wish him the best. He's a great quarterback. He was a great backup for Brady. I don't think that probably it's going to turn that team around, his signing. But, they could build from there. Same thing's going on with Jacoby Brissett, and he's got an arguably stronger team that he's been traded to over on the Colts. So I'm taking the Cardinals over the 49ers. I'm taking the Seahawks over the Redskins. I'm taking the Chiefs over the Cowboys, which is kind of a toss-up game. Chiefs have looked fallible lately. I'm going with the Raiders over the Dolphins. And on Monday night, I'm going with the Lions over the Packers, principally because Aaron Rodgers isn't there. But, Matt Stafford is a good quarterback in his own right. I think that they should be having a better season than they are. All right, so I'll not take up too much more time here with this, but this is Week 9 in the NFL on Johnny's NFL Football Picks of the Week. And now we can begin our This Week in Comic Book Television segment. First of all, I hope everyone had a happy Halloween. I know I did. Like I said, dressing as the Black Panther, giving out candy to the kids. It was a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to the Black Panther when it comes out in February. We've got Thor Ragnarok, of course, just came out yesterday. This is being taped on Saturday. I'm hoping to have a review out of it by Wednesday of next week, because I'll be seeing it Tuesday. I still don't know. This is sort of my de facto channel update. I still don't know. I haven't updated any software to do movie editing yet. Been very busy this week. It's difficult, especially to keep up with all the shows. No exaggeration. Either Friday or Saturday, whatever day I have free, I sit and watch 4 hours worth of shows just to catch up. Like yesterday, I watched Gotham, Arrow, Inhumans, and what was the other one I watched yesterday? Oh, Supergirl, because I had to catch up, and there's just not enough hours in the week anymore to watch all these shows, let alone review them. So also, I'm going to mention I still haven't caught up to Riverdale, so I'm way behind on that. Don't expect any Riverdale updates. Still behind on MacGyver. I would like to get brought up to speed with that eventually when I can. But yeah, the Thor Ragnarok review hopefully will be up on Wednesday. If not, possibly Thursday, depending on how much time I have. All right, so let's get to it. Let's get right to it here. We have for this week, let's start with our double episode of the Inhumans, because I didn't review last week's Inhumans, so we've got a double episode. I'm going to touch briefly on episode 6, last night's episode 7. Maximus had a nightmare. He's starting to feel the pressure of, the rabble about to overthrow him. He assassinated his friend there. I don't remember his name. There was a flashback to Maximus training, which I thought was really cool, with Gorgon. That was pretty cool. Let's see what else. Let me look at my notes. It's been so long since I've seen this one. I don't remember too much of it. The kid that's helping Maximus by seeing the future is still helping him. I have a feeling that he's going to be the catalyst that's going to overthrow Maximus. He's going to do something. In this episode, we almost got that, where he was kind of on the fence on whether to tell Maximus the whole story or the truth or whatever it was that he saw. Medusa tried to soften Black Bolt a bit. She seems to be the only one that doesn't want Maximus' head. She's not out for blood. Everybody else seems to want to just, take him out like a wild dog, but not to be confused with Arrow. But it's sort of, it's the family thing. That's the thing that I like about the Inhumans, is it's not as if they don't know this guy. Maximus is a member of the royal family, and they still sort of treat him like that regardless. He's got more claim to the throne than Loki. And honestly, I always think Maximus should meet up with Loki and exchange notes on how to usurp the family crown. But so going back to the Crystal subplot, we had Dave and Dave's girlfriend going to cause trouble for Crystal and Lockjaw. Dave and Louise end up handling the situation pretty well. This was sort of like the farewell to Louise. It still felt like it was a thankless role. The season hasn't been terrible, I don't think, but I do think that the probably 3 episodes after the first, episode probably was the weakest. And like I said, it all had to do with just them being on Earth and the crazy shenanigans that they got up to on Earth. So the gang met up. Mortis meets his end. He was a riot. He was my favorite character, but he kind of went out kamikaze style rather than get taken down and taken prisoner. Max kills the traitor, and it was a pretty cool scene. And so that was pretty much it. Gorgon died, of course. About that in this week's episode. So let's get to this week's episode. So last week's episode, I guess if I got to put a ranking on it or a review on it, I'd say 4 stars out of 5. It was a good setup for, the end. 4 stars out of 5, B minus. All right, so this week's episode 7, I believe we're on, because next week is the final episode of Inhumans. Now Gorgon's dead, and they want to meet up with the royal family wants to meet up to parley with Maximus. And they trade the scientist for the throne. And not surprisingly, Maximus screws them and, takes the scientist back, Henry Ian Cusack, and doesn't, give them the throne and they have to sort of walk away with their tail between their legs. That was, probably not the best written scenario. Triton finally comes back. We haven't seen him since the first episode. And boy, he was a boss in this episode. He just had an exceptional action scene where he took out all of the royal guards and brought Maximus prisoner to the bunker. Meanwhile, Black Bolt, before we get further into the story, I'm skipping a little bit further ahead, but Black Bolt pretty much knew all along that Triton was alive and he had a bunker prepared on the moon. This is kind of interesting at the last minute to see he was pretty much still in control. I mean, that's sort of his kingly prerogative. I thought that worked pretty well. Medusa didn't take the secrets too well, that she was left out of the loop on these things. And Medusa's got the greatest character arc here in this series. She's the only one that sort of finds out that they're not really treating the people too well, and they really can't expect the support of the people if they're going to keep treating people the way they've been. So, she was sort of the highlight of this episode, I think. Okay, let's see. Crystal, of course, is lovesick in the classic sense. Too bad Johnny Storm wasn't here to take Dave's place because, he was kind of weak sauce, to be honest. But, I knew that was coming, that they were going to have, because Crystal was always like the Juliet, as I said, of the Marvel Universe, where she was always lovelorn for not being able to leave Adelan and being lovesick over Johnny. So we have Maximus. I really love the monologue he gives to Orion about not wanting to be pitied. And it's not enough for him to have the throne. He doesn't want to have any excuses on why he's not an Inhuman. For whatever reason, he was the only one that came out of the Terrigenesis without powers. Now he wants to choose his own powers, and he's bringing, Declan, I think that's the name of Cusack's character, and trying to get him to soup up this Terrigenesis, to the 11th level. So that should be interesting. Then Karnak, of course, they're toting Gorgon's body all over the place with them, and so Karnak wants Gorgon to be put through Terrigenesis again, and with Orion's, DNA to try to revive him. Of course, we find out at the end of the episode that it does revive him, although he's like a raving lunatic now, which was the price that I suppose they knew they were going to pay. Karnak was saying something like it could bring madness to go through Terrigenesis again, which is apparently how we'll get Maximus to finally be mad, which I've been waiting all season for, and he's had moments of it. So I can see now what they were going for. This is an origin season. I really hope they live to get a sophomore season, but will they survive this season because the ratings haven't been bad? Well, the ratings haven't been that great, but there has been a brief, a small spike in the ratings in the past 2 weeks, from what I heard. So, chances are maybe they'll be able to rebound for another season. I think they deserve it. Just bring on a better showrunner, put a little more money in the budget if you possibly can. But, Karnak, he was cool. He was like, I need this to work, because he and Gorgon were so tight during the past. So that was cool. All right. So anyhow, we have Maximus is captured and Black Bolt confronts him, but Maximus always got a plan. He's got Adelan rigged to blow if he dies. Now, this sounds familiar from the comics, and I'm not sure what story this was from. The early Lee Kirby Fantastic Four issues, of course, but I kind of remember him being responsible for destroying Adelan, and I think this is still, part of that story. They are still loosely basing this on the comics, the classic storylines, and that's the problem. It just feels like a very watered down, take on the classic stories. They're still wearing street clothes, and I just don't understand why they couldn't spruce this show up to make it, have some splendor. That's what we want in an Inhumans show. And when you look at, the Netflix series, that's my biggest gripe. They don't have the costumes. they don't have the greatest action scenes. They'll have like one big choreographed scene per season. And, I just, really hope that Inhumans gets their second season, gets their opportunity to show what they really got. Because we didn't see all of it. I think we got some glimpses of it. I think the first episode, as I said, was pretty good. And I think these last two episodes were really good. But, we need to see more. We need to see more from them. And hopefully they'll get that chance. Okay. For a rating on this one, I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. 4.5 stars out of 5. Real good episode, I think. This was a I'd say a B plus. There was some good action, some with the Triton, some suspense. We didn't know if Orion was going to recover because her regenerative powers were not up to snuff lately. So yeah, all in all, it was a good episode. I thought I was pretty happy with it. I might as well stay with the Marvel universe now because we also have this week's episode of The Gifted. All right, so The Gifted. Oh boy, Polaris. She means business. She's still my favorite character in the show. This whole episode was pretty good. I don't remember the name of the character, the lead Sentinel guy. You can see the side of his face on this picture here if you're looking at the screen. I was ready last week, especially. Last week, I was ready to just get rid of this character. I was going to say, can we get like a better antagonist that maybe, would carry the show a little bit more instead of just, oh, Sentinel Services are chasing us. We got to run away and this and that. Give us somebody that's really a mustache-twirling villain that's, some figurehead of the Sentinel Services that we can boo. And they actually did me one better. They did do the traditional X-Men thing of this guy is not a villain to be booed. Sort of like Stryker, although Stryker, I think, of course, is, much further along the villain path than this guy is. I can't remember his name, I'm sorry to say, but this character. But the Sentinel Service agent in charge of everything here. But we start the show with the flashback of the July incident, July 15th. This is sort of their September 11th, where the mutants' demonstrations got out of hand, and then government sort of went on lockdown to try to take them all out. And his daughter dies, 7-year-old daughter, and that's, devastating. And you get to see kind of where he comes from. He's still, kind of not doing the right thing, but you see why he's doing it, why he's got that worldview. So Polaris captures this guy, her and Eclipse, and they want to torture him for information. Of course, the de facto X-Men being good guys, they're not going to torture him. So they bring in a Dreamer, who is the name of this chick with the breath that makes people. I don't know what she does really. She lets them see what they want. She lets them see what she wants them to see, or she can see what they don't want her to see, I guess. So they find out a little bit about his past. Blink gets suspicious about Dreamer and the images that she put in her mind and confronts her. I'm glad that kind of didn't carry on any longer because, it was kind of upsetting, really, that she was going through all that Blink, that she's like, didn't know why she had these feelings for Proudstar, and she was like savvy enough to figure out that it was put there, by somebody else. She didn't like just carry on going, oh, this is normal, I guess, and try to do something with Proudstar. But she was like trying to understand, why am I attracted to a guy that I barely know and didn't even, have a second thought of. I thought they handled it really well. I was surprised that it was going to come out as well as it did. All right, and then we had, they want to know why Pulse is a traitor. Pulse is the mutant that took away their powers last episode. And I don't remember him from the comics, but obviously he's a big character, I guess, because Proudstar knows him and stuff. Then the mutants mistrust the Strucker dad. Reed, I think is his name. And he becomes a decoy to lead Sentinel Services away from the compound. And he has to trust that scuzzy guy that he, almost double crossed. Didn't really double cross him last week, and like that was a tense scene. That was pretty cool. Um, the Strucker mom, Amy Acker, is sort of becoming the resident nurse and doctor of this place. I think nobody else there knows anything about medicine or, you know, surgery or some kind of, you know, medical help, but her. So she's earning her stripes there. But I'm not crazy about all that medical stuff. I really didn't like that subplot this week. We had the I don't know, chameleon guy. I don't know what his name was, with a gunshot wound. He was dying, and the kids like, use their powers to try to help. Well, Andy didn't use his powers; he was using his blood. But and they managed to save a life, which was nice. But like I said, it was basically just to give them something to do that wasn't going to be in any action this week because they already seen action a couple times. So, and at the very end, we get the Sentinel Services guy. He forgets about his daughter being dead, and that was a very touching scene. That guy's a great actor. He really nailed it when he comes home to his wife, and she's like, got to tell him that his daughter's been dead for a couple of years. So yeah, it was a pretty good episode, I think. Like I said, didn't like, the thing about The Gifted to me is I don't know if it's going to have the rewatch value of The Flash or Legends of Tomorrow or something like that, because when it reminds me a little bit of Legion. It's like I seen it once and that was like enough, Legion. And I'm kind of wondering, once all the suspense and twists and turns are done with The Gifted, is it something you'll want to go back to? I'll probably want to go back to it just for Polaris. Boy, is she cute. But but I just hope that they can get on some kind of a rhythm there where they can make you feel more, because it's a show that you want to tune into every week. At least I do. But I think that the rewatch problem might be there, sort of like Inhumans. I don't know if Inhumans is something everybody's going to want to relive over and over again. I mean, I'll watch a season of The Flash again, or a season of Legends, or maybe Arrow, and Supergirl, depending on how good the seasons were, because they go up and down. But that's something I think they're going to have to consider, and I think that means they're going to have to put things up on a larger scale, and maybe they're going to work to that. Then I hope they will. All right, we got so much to get to here. I better move on here. Let's see, what do we got next? Well, according to my notes, the next one I watched was. Oh, do I have to give it a rating? A rating, don't I? Yeah, this was a good episode. I'd say I'll give The Gifted 4 stars out of 5. Yes, 4 stars out of 5 for this week's episode of The Gifted. All right, so next up, let us look at. This was the only show to really do a full-fledged Halloween episode this week for Halloween week, and it is Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow. The spotlight was on Ray, and I love Ray. He's a great character. He was trying to train the team. That was funny. It goes back to Ray's childhood in the 80s, the greatest decade ever, the 80s. And so 80s tributes are always welcome. Whenever they go back to the 80s, it's always a treat for me, because I always thought it was the greatest decade. It's more or less an E.T. tribute. They literally had little Ray on the bicycle with the alien flying in front of the moon. It was cute. It was Halloween. They really did a great job with this one. I before I get into it more, I got to just admit, I think this one was the episode of the week. I'm going to give episode of the week once more to Legends of Tomorrow. They're just killing it. They're killing it every single week. I love the Billy Joel reference. I was wondering what 80s, rock pop star they were going to, I knew they were going to tribute one of them. And I was wondering if it was going to be my man, Phil Collins, but they picked Billy Joel. And, that's, if you're going to pick an 80s icon, Billy Joel fit the bill. I thought that was great. I'm glad they remembered that Ray loves knights, because we had that in the episode last year of him with the Knights of the Round Table and all that. So when Isis, comes looking for Ray, he's, playing knights and whatever. I thought that was cute. I thought the Nate and Ray's mom scene was really funny because the alien dominator was taking her place. Because I said, "Come on, this looks ridiculous. What is this gonna, kind of what are they trying to say about Ray's mom?" But come to find out, it was an alien, and that was really funny. That was hilarious the way that all worked out. Also going to mention, of course, Katie Lotz always looks great in every period fashion. She was doing the Madonna look here a little bit for like a brief scene, though she always looks great. Uh, well, on the negative side, I'd have to say Isis is still pretty boring as a character. I kind of get the feeling they're using the template of what they did with Vixen last year. Vixen, for the first half of the season last year, was pretty boring and uptight and unpleasant, really. And I got to like her a lot more near the end of last season. And this season, she's been good. But that kind of, standoffish, kind of removed from everything. She's not interesting. I mean, that's not the fault of the actress, nor is it something they can't fix. But I think they should try to fix it pretty quickly. Because we can't just make her one of the gang and have it play. You know what I mean? She's got to work into that, earn that spot. But I don't know. For some reason, right now, it's just not working. We got to see all the legends in costume finally. This doesn't happen too often. We got to see a lot of Adam in costume, so I can't complain. But for Halloween, they were all in costume. We got to see Isis in costume briefly, which that's probably the only time we're going to see her in costume. The legends don't get in costume very much, so expecting her to be, in some kind of full-fledged costume is probably going to be too much to ask. The singing in the rain finish was funny. Only on this show can you have the heroes win by having all the villains do a musical number from Singing in the Rain. That was funny. That's why I said you just can't beat this show. I mean, no matter how hard you try, you can't beat it. It's great. All right, and so the other subplot was Stein wanting to see his grandchild born, and they're naming him Ronnie, which I thought was really cute in honor of his first partner, which was such a brief thing. I kind of wish that he was around. Stephen Amell, I mean, not Stephen Amell. Um, oh gosh, I forgot his name. What's his cousin's name? Oh man, yeah, what was his cousin's name? I don't remember. But anyhow, he was only on Flash for one season, and he never got a chance to really imprint that character of Firestorm with Ronnie Raymond. And Jax took over. Now Jax is going to want to separate so that Martin can stay on Earth with his new grandson and his daughter that he really doesn't even know too much either yet because she only came into existence when she was about 22 years old or whatever, and so I don't know. The rumors are true. I imagine that Victor Garber is going to leave the show. I think he's got some kind of Broadway musical that he wants to do, and he can't do both. Sad, but I suppose they can soldier on without him. I suppose it won't be the worst thing in the world. He can always come back, but they're going to probably try to cure Stein at some point here, which means, does that mean Jax is just going to be the Firestorm, or is Jax going to have to merge with somebody else the same way that Stein merged with him? I don't know. I don't know how that works because Ronnie died, and that's why somebody needed to replace him. But in this case, they're going to try to cure Stein. So I don't know. Anyhow, yeah, I'm going to give this episode 5 stars. I think I'm going to give this episode 5 stars out of 5 for Legends of Tomorrow this week. So that was great. This next episode we're going to do, this was also a contender for best episode of the week. I thought this was an outstanding episode. Once again, The Flash is really nailing it this week. I mean, this season. Last year I thought was pretty good. A lot of people are acting like it was a bad season last season. I don't agree with that, but it did fall apart a few more places. Here they haven't fallen apart yet anyway, so this episode was directed by Tom Cavanaugh, who, as you know, is Harrison Wells, in all incarnations. So this was the episode where we get to meet the Elongated Man. which is very cool because I don't know, I forget this guy's name that's playing him, but he was really, really cool. He reminded me, like, I think any comparisons to a young Jim Carrey are entirely coincidental. I don't imagine that he was trying to emulate Jim Carrey, but he was like a young Jim Carrey, which is compliment. The character of Ralph Dibny himself kind of reminded me of like the Creeper. I don't know if you remember the Batman animated series. I don't remember what incarnation of the Batman animated. Was that the Batman and Robin series? Was that the Gotham Knight series? Whatever it was, but they had an episode with the Creeper, and it reminded me of him, the way he's playing the Elongated Man here. So now the origin of Elongated Man here is different than from the comics. Here he's just another metahuman. In the comic, he drank the Indian rubber man juice, Gin Gold, and they had an Easter egg of that actually in the desk. Iris is going through his desk. There's a bottle of Gin Gold as an Easter egg. I thought that was really, really cool because, a lot of people, it probably went right over their heads, but I remember that because I actually read that original comic with Elongated Man. They clearly forgot that they name dropped him in season 1 as a deceased individual. Honestly, just forget that entirely. I kind of don't like that they did that. He said Ralph didn't, he died in the first place, so this is even to say, yeah, gee, that was stupid. Let's retcon that. But these shows have been notorious for that kind of stuff. I still look back at Arrow and Malcolm says, oh, let's call him the Green Arrow, and all is like, oh, that's the most ridiculous name I ever heard of. Now, what is it, 3 seasons later, hey, the Green Arrow, I think I'll name myself that. It's like, it was not really that funny in the first place to just name drop Green Arrow and then say, oh, that's ridiculous. The same thing here. It was like, oh, they had to name drop Ralph Dibny so people can be like, oh, wow, they're talking about the Elongated Man. But then they say he's dead, and so then when he comes back and he's an old rival of Barry's, it's kind of, also, I didn't really get, they try to make him an old rival of Barry, but if Dibny framed a guy, not just lose his job. I mean, we're talking about falsifying evidence, which is supposedly what he did, and yet he even admitted he did it, although he did it because he knew that the guy was guilty and they needed some. But still, I don't think you falsify evidence and it's discovered and then you just lose your job. I think you go to jail for that, so I don't really know. Mayor Bellows is back. I love that guy. Vito D'Ambrose, I believe is his name, from the original series. Didn't like really that they made him, and he was basically the bad guy here. It's sad they made him dirty, but I guess, I don't know, they just probably wouldn't be bringing him back too many times anyway. Once a season is about all, but I don't know. The Flash gives up his identity again. That was kind of strange. I mean, he's always taking his mask off in front of people, especially this guy that he was treating as a rival. It's almost like, and it's like he's got a rival, and then it's like, well, let you know my secret. And it's like, yeah, I don't think you should do that. Feeling they were going to go for the Plastic Man reference and create that line at the end. Barry's like, how about Plastic Man? He's like, that's terrible. And he's like, well, Cisco handles the names. That was pretty funny. I thought that was cool. Yeah, speaking of Cisco, he had the major subplot here. The guy from the Snickers commercials is Gypsy's father, Breacher. I don't remember. He's an actor. He's in other things. I don't remember. Is it Sons of Anarchy? I don't know. I never watched that show, so I'm not sure. But I know I've seen him before. I just know him from the Snickers commercials. He's hunting Cisco. That was funny. It was a pretty funny subplot. Not the greatest. Not much they could do with that, but and Joe tells the gang about Cecile expecting. That was cute. It was a funny episode overall. I really liked it. We had a hint at the Killer Frost subplot. I've been waiting for them to do something with that. I think they're just going to sit on that for a little while, but I was waiting for that. They just got a hint of it. So yeah, overall, great episode. I hope to see Elongated Man I hope he's here and not just going to be like the FX for his you know, stretching abilities was pretty cool. Scene where his Flash punched his face and his face like sunk in and stuff. Really cool. I thought they did a good job with it. So I'm going to give this episode of The Flash 4.5 stars out of 5. 4.5 stars out of 5. Week. All right. Let us mosey on over now. I want to mosey. Well, I'll show you how to mosey one of these days. But I did find an image of, you got the Digglehood going on here. If we're going to do Arrow now. Arrow, if my voice holds out. It's noticeable. It just feels like my nose is like got something going on. More information than you needed. Okay, the show starts with Laurel in a wig. Canary was in the comics. She wore a wig to like disguise her hair, which is something this show never really did. I just picked up on that as a cool thing. You know, whatever. It's mostly a Felicity-centric episode. That's the name of that girl. She comes back from Helix. Last season they broke out Caden James, and they got to put him back because they didn't really explain too much why. Was he always crazy? I don't know. So basically, it's a Felicity-centric episode. As is a black stormtrooper and botches Felicity's mission because all he wants to do something, but he's out of the action again and doing his show. It's like, once again, whose show is this anyway? Felicity haters will probably hate this episode because it was basically Felicity's episode. I don't mind the role reversal as one-off, but I really don't want Ollie out of action for too long. This is going to go on for a while. I don't know how long, but you know, catalyst is supposed to be. Maybe now that supposedly Slade is coming back next week, this is going to be the catalyst to shake Ollie out of the blah he's in. For the rest of the team, you know, apart from Felicity, was to find Black Siren. She was working with Caden James. We got another Siren versus Canary. Old. Anyway, right now it doesn't get old, but you know, now it's getting pretty exciting. There's a cold-blooded killer. Now I remember saying that at some point she was going to turn good. Redeemed at this point. I mean, she's just killing people left and right in this episode. That's not something that you just, you know, shooting live ammo. You got Diggle now with the crossbow. He's always packing heat, so the crossbow, I don't think he's going to be any less dangerous. I wish they would have focused on Dinah more. I still wish they'd focus on her because Canary is supposed to be such an important character, and we've gone through 3 of them already. We've gone through. And they're still not really giving her the focus. They got to give her some spotlight. Like Diggle's keeper or whatever she was trying to be to him. Give her a better role. Give her something to do. Curtis, I got to admit, has been better this season at dropping the character for the past 3 seasons because he's useless. He's redundant. I've said this 1,000 times, but just for the record, in case you haven't heard it, but he's redundant when you get Felicity as the genius hacker and resident computer. He's useless in the field because he doesn't know any hand-to-hand combat, and they haven't been able to teach him. Or because Felicity's got other things to do, and he's been in the shop or whatever doing things and active in the field because he's got the T-squares, spheres. But I don't feel quite as aggravated when I see him now because he's a little more useful. To talk about this episode, it was just, like I said, a very Felicity-centric episode, which they give her one time by me. I just want to see Ollie back in the hood. Let's get this going. Let's get this storyline moving. Of the plot with Diggle in jail last season, where it's just like, all right, we get the idea. You got to kill some time. Let's get a better storyline going. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. 3.5 stars out of 5 for Arrow. Um, Elena, is that her name? Didn't die, to be honest with you. I if she was going to get killed, but she survived, so that was good. All right, we're going to move on to our next show now. Let's see. Next up we have, let's take a look at my notes. What do we have here coming up? We have Supergirl. Yes, Supergirl. Now, interesting episode to me, just for the sheer guts it took to do it. Because I heard the premise of this one, and it's like, oh yeah, they're going to talk about, religious extremism. And I said, this show is so heavy-handed. What does Belloc say? He goes, you use a bulldozer to find a China cup. That's what this show's MO is. Let's tackle important issues, but try to with a sledgehammer. A little bit more deft in this one. Deft to handle it better. So a guy named Colville was on. That was cool. They went back to the first episode for a villain, and on the plane that she rescued, and to him it was a religious experience. Started up a cult of Ra, which is the Kryptonian god, because he sees Supergirl as a savior and worships her. All these other people who are saved by Supergirl to worship her as a deity as well. Concept. Now, I know this isn't the first time that this has been tried. This was done with Superman in the comics, I think. I think they tried to touch on it a little bit in Batman v Superman, not very well. They did kind of do it, this kind of story, the best of it. I've always been a bit curious about this row that Superman name drops from time to time, saying great row and stuff. And even that was always a bit problematic to me, because Superman was raised on Earth, and although he knows about row and stuff like that, came to Earth, he doesn't know about the religious beliefs of Krypton only from secondhand from Jor-El in the Fortress. Supergirl actually, by comparison, was brought up with these religious upbringing to believe in Rao and whatever. So I was interested in that, and we didn't really learn a whole lot about Rao. It would have been boring if it was just like exercise and learning about whatever, but I was curious about it. We got a little of it, though. I mean, you've seen her praying and her mother praying with her and stuff, and so this cult that the guy brings up is less as it is worshipping at the altar of the Maid of Might, which is an equally interesting concept. But you see, you have Supergirl had in trying to, maintain that, trying to turn her back on Rao, but she's saying that these people have perverted Rao's message. And so that's kind of the hook, of a religious extremism, not to, blame the religion for the extremists. I think they did that pretty well without bashing you over the head with it, because she was more offended that, Rao was kind of dishonored and that she was not, being put in this position to be treated like a savior. So I thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty good. Her initial confrontation with the guy was pretty cool. I hate when villains find out the hero's secret identity, but I could buy he figured out her secret identity. Because the guy was just so nuts and so into it. I could buy that he, would recognize her even in her secret identity. So I don't know. I bought it anyway. I usually am not like that. I'm willing to give it if it's a well reasoned explanation. I'm willing to give it a buy. And this one I thought was well reasoned. He's like, you look into the eyes of God and you don't forget. So, it's kind of reminded me of the John Blake in The Dark Knight Rises, where I bought that one too, where he was like, I've seen that face 1,000 times when you put on a mask and make everybody think you're laughing, and they don't want to see the angry little kid. That whole routine, I bought that too. So it's like sometimes when somebody figures out your secret identity just by looking at you, I can buy it, but it's got to be convincing. I thought this one was convincing. So we had Jimmy Olsen here recounting his first meeting with Superman. This was the only part I thought was a little bit overboard, a little heavy-handed when he says prayer doesn't usually work. I beg to differ. I know what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that, if you're falling off a building and you pray, there's a 99% chance no one's going to catch you. You're going to fall to your death. But it's kind of a broad statement to say prayer doesn't usually work. I mean, prayer does work on a daily basis. We're just talking about different scenarios than what he was talking about, I suppose. Koval found an old Kryptonian probe, I guess. This is how we got all this information. They kind of glossed over that fast, but I think that's what happened, because I was wondering how he knew so much about Krypton. Because this is a guy that was, I don't know what he was. He was an insurance salesman or something, and he's all of a sudden he's this authority on Kryptonian culture. I was like, they could have spent a little more time figuring that out, or dishing that out. So the big finish was the bomb planted under the hockey game. And it was pretty cool. I thought that Supergirl wins this one by showing her weakness more than her strength, because the kryptonite that was involved in the probe there, it weakened her so that it wasn't just an easy out of just pick up the thing, throw it away, and it'll blow up in space. Get help. They kind of, it probably could have been the Martian Manhunter, but they, I can understand they didn't want to take the influence off of her, especially since last week, Manhunter, and they dropped the probe into the ground, and that's supposed to set up, I think, something that's going to happen in the future, because we saw some pods that were under the ground there or something. That was interesting. I'm going to continue on to, and to see that she's like, she's Kryptonian, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, lying unconscious in a heap. I thought that was a pretty strong image. Supergirl's not a goddess, and that was made very clear by the end. So the only other thing was we had the subplot with Rain, which is just kind of plodding along. Wants her to be with her, and she's a working mom. That's what I mean. It's like, fine, I get it. Do something with the storyline eventually, because it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere fast enough. 2 or 3 episodes on something like this is enough. Starting to get well, where are they going to go with this? They started showing us that the Rain characteristics or something are going to come out of her. Some kind of witch or something appears to her in a vision. That's Angelina J, I believe is her name. Dax and Robin Hood for 2 seasons, which I really love that show. Same show that David Harewood played Friar Tuck. So that was kind of curious that both happened to be on Supergirl. Of course, we have to the Sandverse subplot for this week. Alex is finally figuring out that the relationship with Maggie isn't all that it was cracked up to be. It probably never really was. Maggie to be this very selfish person, and I don't see why Alex wanted to be with her, really. Things of, I found out I'm gay, and now I can fall in love with this person. It just did the whole subplot all last year leading into this year just didn't work. It didn't work for me then. It doesn't work for me now. Of this relationship, which is eminent, thankfully. Maggie just seems too selfish and self-centered. Her, and it's just one of those things that the thankfully, as fate would have it, Maggie's actress is going to leave for another show, because this would have probably been carrying on for over the fact that Maggie doesn't want to have kids, and that was a well acted scene for the Alex. But still, let's just get this over with. Oh man, get it over with. Wynn's still kind of getting a side role, not getting much done. I don't know. His alien girlfriend in it anymore. They're not even mentioning it anymore. I think they might have mentioned it at the beginning. They sort of mentioned Guardian and wants to go out there, but they're sidelining them too because it's become like an all women show now. It's like, what's Lena up to? We got to find out what Lena's up to. What's Rain up to? And Maggie and Alex. But they're not really focusing on the male characters anymore, which seems to be pretty evident. And like I said, too far in that direction, you're going to have viewers are not going to be as interested. You got to give a full orbed characters. All in all, a surprisingly decent take on a tricky subject, but I didn't expect it. I'm going to give this episode, I'll say 4 stars out of 5. 4 stars out of 5. That's like a B. And let's see, what do we have left? I think we still have, if I remember correctly, go. And we will get to it right now. And that would be, of course, Gotham. Gotham this week. All right, we're still in the storyline, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really feeling this storyline. It's kind of feeling to me like the what's his name? Mad Hatter storyline from last season, where it was kind of like after a while, I was like, are we done with him? Can we put Mad Hatter away? Don't want to see him no more. And it's kind of the same way with Pig here, although he wasn't in it that much this episode. Things, more interesting things we could be doing than Professor Pig. That high profile of character. Bring Pighead, COD. Get gross. I thought it was interesting. We got the Penguin hiring Headhunter. Sounds familiar. I think I remember him from the comics again. Another 90s villain, which is just a guy with a gun. Basically, that's what those 90s characters were all. Guns. And he was funny. He was a good substitute for Mr. Zaz, who was off this week. I think it was a waste to kill him off because it was pretty funny. And if punchline, the Penguin could say, "Oh, my second, whatever." He didn't get to survive and come back. They could have done something with him. All right, so we have the storyline with what's going on in this one. It was, I think, no exaggeration, 4 subplots. Just dispensing advice from Prince. That was pretty cool. Prince's ties to Batman, I guess. By the way, is the advice she gave to Tabitha and Serena. Did I say Serena? Selena. Babs needs another makeover desperately. I mean, she looked great in the second season when they gave her the Shirley Temple hairdo. I don't know. So Selena went in over her head against a biker gang trying to steal crap. I almost swore. I don't swear on my channel, so I caught myself. And Tabitha and Babs go after her and bail her out, even after Babs was saying, "Get up and not Rio anymore." So that was cute. And then, Selena's still doing what is it, the cat girl thing? I think we can call her cat girl now because she's almost costume. It's just not quite as provocative, I suppose. Woman thing. She's even got the whip still now. All right, we got to go over to the Bruce Wayne part of things, and that's the part that I'm really disgusted with here. I desperately didn't want them to go here of the teenage bad boy Bruce acting out because Roz died and he killed Roz and he didn't want to kill Roz and he kind of already broke his. He's only 15. Or whatever. I don't even remember how many seasons it's been. 4 seasons. He's already broken his one rule. So, it's like a little longer till he was a little bit older for this. I think he's only like 15, and he's already like now he's drinking and hanging with the wrong crowd and stuff. Bruce's first buying out a business so that he could get a table, one of those things. That was cute. At 15 years old, he buys his own in order to be able to attend it. But I don't care. They're still not going to let him drink. He's 15 years old, and they're letting him drink like he's. I just didn't like the whole Bruce subplot. I don't know why all of a sudden he was friends, old friends, quote unquote old friends. I mean, this girl remembered him from the 2 years he was in school before he was homeschooled. I don't know. I just didn't like the whole subplot. How long this will last? Hopefully not long. I would have hoped the writers would have had the discipline to not go here, but all right. So let's get to the heart of the story, which is Jim Gordon. Jim's relationship with Harvey is strained since payroll. Harvey's always had one foot in the shady side of Gotham. He was on the take with Shmooney, wasn't he? You looked the other way for her all the time, so it's not surprising, really. Gotham, but this is putting a strain on the relationship, and it's sad because they're pretty cool together, and they're. Harv is still the de facto captain, even though it's a convincing person that you want to put in the role of captain, but going to get because they used up Michael Chiklis is now the executioner, who still hasn't come back this season. But because what I'm trying to say is they killed off Sarah Essen, another waste really, because she was the boss in the beginning. The next person who should get that job is Gordon, and I don't know how long they're going to want to stretch that out before they make him and then make him commissioner when Batman is Batman. But how long they're going to take to do that, but you kind of feel that Harvey's time as captain is running out. Pledging to take down the dirty cops. I felt like for the first time, at least in a long time, comic book Jim Gordon, where he's pledging to take down the dirty cops and clean out the Gotham Police Department. I felt like he could have trained places with the Dark Knight Jim Gordon. It felt like the Dark Knight Jim Gordon to me, so that was a good plus. I like that. The Penguin was pretty funny. Yeah, he was in a scene with Sophia in the orphanage. That was probably his best scene show. But that subplot, that was kind of funny though. That scene where Sophia is still trying to do and that she's not interested in taking over, which they dropped that pretty fast. And she was, and then like for one episode, and the next thing you know, she's like got nothing to do with him anymore. It's kind of one of those things where they don't know what to do with the character. They don't know where they're going to take it. And then they say, well, let's take it in a different direction. You're kind of left scratching your head. Why do they even go there in the first place? I imagine it will once Lee comes back from the Fight Club. So in the end, Professor Pig still gets away. All the way home. And Pig set him up like the Dark Knight and the cop because he wouldn't listen to Jim, and they're all thinking that Pig was Pig when Pig was actually the cop dressed as Pig. So it's a Dark Knight reference. That was pretty cool. And Pig continues to get away. I didn't realize that was him in disguise, Pig, when he was the cop in the Professor Pig really is the cop. I didn't really follow that scene too well, but anyhow, he was in disguise, and Gordon remembered from what he said Professor Pig all along. Again, Professor Pig gets away. I don't know if I really can see him being this recurring villain all season, but they need one of these methodical masterminds for Gordon to come up against instead of just these crazy guys like Headhunter and stuff. So, not a bad episode, but the season started with so much promise, and I think it's really starting to show some sign of decline. It happens with a lot of shows, but I think this usually happens with Gotham, where they start out strong, season blahs, and then they kind of pick up near the end. I wish it could be strong all the way through, so I hope that they can kind of rebound from this. And, I'm going to give Gotham this week. Let me see. I'm going to give Gotham. See, they dealt with all the subplots this week that they didn't deal with last week. Last week it was just Ed and Grundy and so I'm going to give this episode 3.5 stars out of 5. That's 3.5 stars out of 5. It's been about an hour, and we have pretty much wrapped it up for this week. Television, thank you for joining me once again. 2, let me know what you think about the show in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this week's episodes that we tackled. We've got a whole new week coming up next week, and this week in comic book television next Saturday, I'm going to try to do a Thor Ragnarok, probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday. If not, it'll be on Saturday when I do those next week. So until next time, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. Smash it if you haven't already. Wish me some good health because I feel like I'm fading fast. So once again, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, brightly, real soon.